Picking up from page 86. Proposition 8 requires California to treat same-sex couples differently from opposite-sex couples. Attorney General admits that because two types of relationships, one for same-sex couples and one for opposite-sex couples, exist in California, a gay or lesbian individual may be forced to disclose his or her sexual orientation when responding to a question about his or her marital status. California Family Code Section 300 to 536, California Family Code Section 297 to 299.6 refer to marriage and registered domestic partnerships. Proposition 8 reserves the most socially valued form of relationship, marriage, for opposite-sex couples. Peploe. In a study by Gary Gates, Lee Badgett, and Deborah Ho suggests that same-sex couples are 3 times more likely to get married than enter into domestic partnerships or civil unions. Lee Badgett, in an article entitled When Gay People Get Married, states many Dutch couples saw marriage as better because it had an additional social meaning that registered partnerships as a recent political invention lacked. In some places, the cultural and political trappings of statutes that are not marriage sends a very clear message of difference and inferiority to gay and lesbian couples. When compared to marriage, domestic partnership may become a mark of second-class citizenship and less understood socially. In practice, these legal alternatives to marriage are limited because they do not map into a well-developed social institution that gives the act of marriage its social and cultural meaning. Herrick, the difference between domestic partnerships and marriage is more than simply a word. If we look at public opinion data, for example, there's a sizable proportion of the public, both in California and the United States, who say they're willing to let same-sex couples have domestic partnerships or civil unions, but not marriage. This suggests a distinction in the minds of a large number of Americans. It's not simply a word. In addition, looking at the recent history of California, when it became possible for same-sex couples to marry, thousands of them did. And many of those were domestic partners. So clearly, they thought there was something different about being married. Speaker warns that if Proposition 8 does not pass, children will be taught that gay marriage is not just a different type of marriage, that they're going to be taught that it's a good thing. And Speaker refers to The Voice and the satellite simulcast in defense of marriage. Proposition 8 amends the California Constitution to codify distinct and unique roles for men and women in marriage. Lamb, the traditional family refers to a family with a married mother and father who are both biologically related to their children, where the mother stays at home and the father is the breadwinner. Protect Marriage, the Fine Line transcript, October 2008, states, children need a loving family, and yes, they need a mother and father. Now, going on what Sean was saying here about the consequences of this, if Proposition 8 doesn't pass, then it will be illegal to distinguish between heterosexual and same-sex couples when it comes to adoption. Yvette just mentioned some statistics about growing up in families without mother and father at home. More important, or how important it is to have that kind of thing, I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a human being, but you don't need to be wearing a white coat to know that kids need a mom and dad. I'm a dad, and I know that I provide something different than my wife does in my family, and my wife provides something entirely different than I do in our family, and both are vital. Another excerpt from Protect Marriage, the Fine Line transcript. When moms are in the park taking care of their kids, they always know where those kids are. They have like a radar around them. They know where those kids are, and there's a bond between the mom and the kid different from a dad. I'm not saying dads don't have that bond, but they don't. It's just different. You know, middle of the night, mom will wake up, dad will just sleep. You know, if there's a little noise in the room, and when kids get scared, they run to mommy. Why? Well, they spent 9 months in mommy, they go back to where they came. Video, Ron Prentice addressing supporters of Proposition 8. Prentice tells people at a religious rally that marriage is not about love, but instead about women civilizing men. Again, because it's not about two people in love, it's about men becoming civilized. Frankly, I can tell you this from personal experience, and every man in this audience could do the same thing if they chosen to marry. Because when you do find the woman that you love, you are compelled to listen to her. And when the woman that I loved prior to my marrying her told me that my table manners were less than adequate, I became more civilized. And when she told me that my rust-colored corduroy were never again to be worn, I became more civilized. Protect Marriage, a fine line transcript. Skin color is morally trivial, as you pointed out, but sex is fundamental to everything. There is no difference between a white or a black human being, and there's no big difference between a man and a woman. Transcript, ABC, Protecting Marriage. Jennifer Roback Morse states that the function of marriage is to attract mothers and fathers to one another, and mothers and fathers to their children, especially fathers to children. A video supporting Proposition 8, Prentice states, children need the chance to have both mother love and father love, and that moms and dads and males and females complement each other. They don't bring to a marriage and to a family the same natural set of skills and talents and abilities. They bring to children the blessing of both masculinity and femininity. Email from Kenyon Curiton, Vice President Family Research Council, to Prentice, August 2008. Attached to the email is a kit to be distributed to Christian voters through churches to help them promote Proposition 8, which states, thank God for the difference between man and woman. In fact, the two genders were meant to complement each other physically, emotionally, and every other way. Also, both genders are needed for a healthy home. As Dr. James Dobson notes, more than 10,000 studies have concluded that kids do best when they're raised by mothers and fathers. Transcript, Love, Power, and Mine, a telecast, September 25, 2008, CCN. Same-sex marriage, it will unravel that in a significant way and say that really male and female, mother and father, husband and wife are just really optional for the family, not necessary, and that is a radically anti-human thing to say. Transcript, ABC, Protecting Marriage. And we know that fatherlessness has caused significant problems for a whole generation of children, and same-sex marriage would send us more in that direction of intentionally fatherless homes. Protect Marriage, a fine line transcript. Miles McPherson states that it is a truth that God created the woman bride as the groom's compatible marriage companion. Proposition 8 does not affect the First Amendment rights of those opposed to marriage for same-sex couples. Prior to Proposition 8, no religious group was required to recognize marriage for same-sex couples. In re marriage cases. Affording same-sex couples the opportunity to obtain the designation of marriage will not impinge upon religious freedom of any religious organization or official or other person. No religion will be required to change its religious policies or practices with regard to same-sex couples, and no religious officiant will be required to solemnize a marriage in contravention of his or her religious beliefs. COT, Civil Law. Not religious custom is supreme defining and regulating marriage in the United States. California Family Code 400-420. Proposition 8 eliminates the right to marry for gays and lesbians, but does not affect any other substantive right under the California Constitution. Proposition 8 does not eliminate the substantial substantive constitutional protections afforded to same-sex couples. Proposition 8 has a negative fiscal impact on California and local governments. Badgett, Proposition 8 has